Hello everyone. In this video we will see a sample program with registration and login screen using Tkinter IDE. So Tkinter is the Python interface to the Tkinter GUI toolkit shipped with the Python. So once you install the Python in your system, this Tkinter will come as a default within the Python package. So now in this sample program we cover creating a registration screen, then creating a login screen, and we will try to use different widgets like label, entry, radio button, check button, drop down list, buttons, etc. We will also do the field validations for password, phone number, email ID, and other user input fields like first name, last name, etc. We'll also see what is a callback function and how to register the callback function and how to call a callback function. Then we'll see switching between the screens. In this, we'll see how to switch between a registration screen to login screen and from login screen to registration screen. We'll see validating credentials of users to say whether he is a valid user or an invalid user. And we'll also see how to show a message box to the user with relevant messages. So here we consider a valid email format is one which has a string of certain length containing characters followed by an @ symbol, then followed by few more characters, then a dot and followed by more characters. If a user input of email ID is in this format, then we consider it as a valid email ID, otherwise we say it's an invalid email ID. So for this program I have already created two Python scripts, one for registration screen and one for login screen. Both I have opened in the Python idle. So this is the code we have for registration screen. Then we have login screen.py where we have the code for login screen. Let me try running the registration screen first. So this is the registration screen which I have designed, where I have tried to use most of the different widgets like label, where we display the text to a user, entry, where we can expect user entry. We have used radio buttons for gender classification. We have used drop down list to select the country to which user belongs, and we have used a check button to show the different skills of users, and also we have used buttons. So let's go through the code to see how we have designed this screen. Okay, so we are in registration screen.py. So the first part of the code is to import the required libraries and packages for the program. So here, in the first two lines, we have imported all the modules we need. That is, we have imported the message box and star, which signifies all from Tkinter library. So we have imported all the libraries from all the Tkinter libraries, and also we have imported message box, which is used for displaying a message to a user. In the next two lines, we have imported regular expression and OS. Regular expression is used in our email validation section, and also OS is used to call a next screen from the current screen. We'll go through each of this. So once we have imported the required libraries, the next thing is to create a window where we can put our widgets. So this entire window, first thing is to create this entire window. So for that, I have created an object of Tkinter class, TK class, and I have named that object as window. Post that, I have few functions which are written for various purposes, like validate phone number, to validate the user input phone number, then to validate the email, to validate all other input fields. I have created a function validate all fields, then clear all fields. This is used to clear the user input values, and call new screen. This function is used to call a new screen from the current screen. So these are the different functions which I have created. We can go through each of these functions in the later part of the program. So let me cut and paste this window object here so that it will be easy to understand. So once I have created the required functions, I have created a main window for my application using the TK class, and I have named that object as window. So once I have the window, I need to give a title to my window. Here you see the title for this window is welcome to user registration screen. For that, we have in the Tkinter class we have a function called title, where we can pass the string value which will be considered as the title for that window. Here I am passing it as welcome to user registration screen, which is coming at the top. Then we have used geometry and configure functions on this Tkinter class. So window.geometry set the size of the window, and window.configure sets the background color. So I have given the size as 500 and 500, that is length is 500 and width is 500, so it looks like a square. Then background color I have given as light blue. I can specify any color I want. I can say red, and I can run the program. See, it looks like red. So I can give any color I want. Then okay, so I have given the title, then I have given the width and height of this window, and I have given a background color for this window. Next, I have declared variables for my input fields. I have different input fields here: to enter full name, password, to confirm password, to enter phone number, email ID, gender, country, skills. So for each of that, I have created a variable. For everything I have created as a string variable, and only for gender I have created as an integer variable. I will see why we have created gender as an integer variable later. So once I have created required variables for my input fields, so the question is why we have created this variable. So in the later part of the program, once user gives input for full name, so that input, this value will be stored in this variable vFname. vPassword will hold the password which user has given. So to hold the user inputs, we have declared variables here. Next, Once we have declared required variables, so the first thing you see in the screen is the label saying registration screen. In order to print this, what I have done, I have used a label widget. So label widget implements a display box where you can place text or images. So I have created a variable called lb_heading, and I'm assigning that variable with the label widget, and this label widget takes parameters, that is the Tkinter class object which we have declared as window, then the text, the label, what you want to display to the user. I am displaying it as registration screen, one you see in bold here. You can specify the width for this label, font, you can say whether it's a bold, italic or any other font style, and the font size. I have given it as 20. Also you can give the background color. I have given the same background color as that of the screen. So this will declare and initialize a label. Now I want to place that label in the screen, in the window. So where I can place? For that I have a function called place. So LB heading is holding the label now called registration screen. Using that lb_heading dot place, I am placing it at the position where x equals to 90 and y equals to 53. That is coming somewhere here where you can see the label registration screen. It's kind of an x and y coordinate. So we are placing that label in this particular position. Next, we have another label called full name. Same thing. I have created a variable lb_full name. I have used the label widget, passed the required parameters, and I have placed it at x equals to 80 and y equals to 130. So if you see, the label registration screen was placed at x equals to 90 and full name is placed at x equals to 80. So just to adjust it according to, so that it looks good in the screen, we have used the x and y coordinate values. And since full name should come below the registration screen label, so the y coordinate of full name was 53. Now the y coordinate of registration screen was 53. I have increased the y coordinate to 130 for full name so that it will come below. So now beside full name I have a user input field where user can enter his full name. In order to get user input, we have a widget called entry. Entry will allow user to enter any kind of values like numbers, strings, special characters. I can enter anything here. Characters, numbers, special characters, it takes anything. So I have created a variable and I have used the entry widget on this window, and I have used a parameter called text variable and passing it to the string variable which I have declared, that is VF name, to this text variable, assigning this text variable with VF name. So whatever data I enter here in the entry field of full name will be saved in this string variable what I have created called v_f name. Next I am placing this entry at x 240 and y 130. So if you see, label full name and the entry box are adjacent to each other because I have given the y value as same, y equals to 130 at for both. Only the thing I have changed is x, so that the entry box will come beside full name. This is how I have created the label full name and entry box for that. Similar fashion, I have created next the password. Only change here is since password should be whatever password we enter, it should be encrypted, should not be visible to others. So for that we have used a property called show. Here we can pass either asterisk or bullet value so that the same will come up when you enter the password. Same thing for confirm password. Use show is equals to asterisk. So I can okay. Next field is the phone number. So I created a label called phone number. Next I have created entry phone number. So whatever number we enter, it will be saved in the variable v phone number, v underscore phone number. Now, once we place that phone number in the screen, next we have used something called register callback function, validate phone number. So here, phone number we know that it should be only digit. What if in case user inputs a character in the phone number field? So we should do some validation and tell to user saying phone characters are not allowed in phone number or phone number accepts only the numbers. So for that, what we have done is, so I'm entering a phone number here, now numbers here in the phone number field. Let me try to enter a character. So it displays a message saying only digits are allowed for phone number. So it's not allowing me to enter a character into the phone number field. So how I have achieved this? Let's see. Once I place the phone number field, I have created a callback function called validate phone number here. So let me go to that callback function here. Callback function for validating user phone number. So what this function is doing is, it takes input as a phone number. It takes one input here and it checks whether that input is digit. If it's a digit, it returns true. Then if that input is null, then also it returns true. When we get this scenario is, assume we have entered some numbers into this field. Then I press everything. Now the input is null. So still it is true. So in such scenarios, this else if condition will be passed. Then else is somewhere when the input is not a digit. Then I display a message saying only digits are allowed for phone number. This I have achieved using a message box function which I imported earlier. So message box dot show info. Here first parameter will be the title of that message box and the string message. Second parameter will be the message what you want to display. So if you see, if I try to enter a string here, it says information. This is the first parameter what I have passed into the message show info function, and second parameter is the message what you want to display to the user. So basically this function, it takes an input and checks whether it is a digit. If it's a digit, it will return true. Otherwise, if it's not a digit, it will display a message. Now let's see from how we have called this function from our main program. So for that, what we have to do is, this is a callback function. We have to first register a callback function. So we have done 3 steps here. First we have make a callback function. So we have already created a callback function called validate phone number. Then we have to register the callback function. So how to register it? So I have created one variable valid underscore phone number is equals to window.register, and I am passing the function name validate phone number. This is how we register the callback function using the register function. Next, view the option values. That means validate, when to call this callback function. Validate command, what function to call, and invalid command is something optional. So we have created the callback function and we have already registered it. Now we need to know when to call this callback function. So we know that we need to call this callback function whenever a user hits a key in the keyboard for this phone number field. So entry phone number is a variable which is holding the input of this phone number field. On entry underscore phone number dot config, I'm validating it. So validate whenever a key is pressed, and the validate command will be my valid phone number function which I have created here. And percentage %p, it is a percentage specifier. This is used to pass input to callback function. So in my case, I'm passing the input is whatever the key the user has pressed, that will be passed as the input this valid underscore phone number callback function. So that input will be checked in the validate underscore phone number, and it will either return true or it will display a message. So valid phone number is the variable which is holding that register callback function where we are registering our validate underscore phone number function. So this is how we can validate a phone number. First we'll create a callback function, then we'll register the callback function, then we'll say when to call this callback function. In our case, we are calling it whenever a key is pressed on phone number field. Next we have email. So at this point we are not validating the email. So it just takes the user input, whatever user enters it takes, and it will be stored in the variable v underscore email id. See, we will be validating this email id once we click on register button. So next is a gender. We have a label gender. Then we have a radio button. So to create radio button, we have a function called RadioButton. We pass the text for the radio button, in our case male and female. Background color is BG. Adding variable, so it will hold the text value. Then value 1, value 2. So if a user picks male, it will take value 1, will return value 1. If user selects female, it will return value 2. And I am placing it at this x and y coordinates. This is how we create a radio button. Then we have a country label, which will take list of countries as a drop down. For that, first we have created a list called list underscore country. We are passing the country names, comma delimited. Then to make it as a drop down, we have something called option menu, where we will pass the window object, then the v country, the variable what we have created, then the list what we have created. So if you see star, we have mentioned it as star list underscore country because star list underscore country show all the items in the list vertically in dropdown. In case if I remove star here, it will show all items horizontally in one single line. That's why we have used the star. And whatever value we select, that will be stored in this v country variable. So if I select Canada, Canada will be saved in this v country variable. And config width I am giving for this drop down list and the background color. And initially I am setting this v country dot set as select your country. That is what you were seeing at the initial stage, right? If I run this, so before selecting any item, you see select your country, that it has set here. And whenever you select any country, that particular country will be saved in this v country variable. But initially we are setting that v country variable with select your country string. Then I am placing it in the XY coordinate. This is how you create a drop down list. Finally we have a button. So I have created a label for skills. Then we have a check button with 3 values: Java, Python and .NET. So here for each one of that, I think we missed one point in the radio button. In the radio button I said it returns value 1 and 2, which is an integer. That's the reason vGender we have declared it as an integer variable, whereas others are string variable. So vGender, why I have declared it as integer variable? Because the radio button, based on the selection, it returns me the value in integer format, either 1 or 2. Okay. So coming back to check button, so we have 3 values: Java, Python and .NET for skills. So I have created one integer variable for each of that. So first I have created variable 1 underscore skill. I have a function check button where I pass the text for the check button, background color, and variable I am storing it in variable 1 var1 underscore skill, and I am placing it in the XY coordinate. Similarly I have created for the other 2 items. What happens if I select Java 1? This var1 will hold the value as 1. Initially it will be 0, and once I select it, the variable for this Java check button will return value 1. If I select Python, the variable 2 underscore skill will hold the value 1, otherwise it will be 0. Since .NET I have not selected, var3 underscore skill, it will hold the value as 0. So the selected items will hold the value as 1, and one which are not selected will hold the value as 0. So I have created all the user inputs. Finally I have 3 buttons here, one for registration, one to clear the user inputs, and one more button saying existing user. If he is an existing user, he can directly go to the login screen by clicking this button. So how I have created that button says, I have created a variable button underscore register using a button widget. I have used the TK class object, then the text for that button, command. So once user click on this button register, the value which we are passing in the command, that particular function will be called. Here on clicking button register, I am calling a function validate all fields. We'll see what this function is doing. Then background color, I'm giving it as dark blue, so you can see the dark blue color here. Foreground color, I'm giving it as white, that is the register, the text color. The font, I have made it as bold of font size 10 and I have placed in the XY coordinate. Similarly, I have created button clear, which will call your clear all fields function, and button existing user, which will call new screen. So first let's see what happens when I click on button register. It will call me validate all fields function. Let's see what this function is doing now. Function validate all fields. Function for validating all other user input fields. Okay. So it will validate all the user input fields. Right now in my user input, I have just validated the phone number. Now I still need to validate the other user inputs. What if user does not gives any input for full name, or if he does not provide any input for password, or if he enters a phone number which is of not equals to 10 digits? What if he enters some invalid phone number? All this validation has to be done. So we are doing such validations in this validate all fields function. So as I told, VF name, it is holding the full name what user has given in this entry field. So using .get function, I can get the value stored in this variable, and I am checking whether it is null. If so, I will display a message box show info with the title information and message saying please enter full name to proceed. So let me see. So I have not entered the full name, and let me try to click register button now. It says please enter full name to proceed. So I will enter my full name. Then you click the registration button. Now it says please enter password to proceed, because in the next else if I'm checking whether password is null. If so, I'll display a message please enter password to proceed. Okay. Let me give a password also. Now let me register. It says please confirm password to proceed, because in the next else if I'm checking whether confirm password is null. If so, display that relevant message. Fine. Let me give let me confirm my password again, but right now I'll give some incorrect password. Next, please enter phone number to proceed. So I try to enter a character. It says only digits are allowed for phone number. So let me enter some 2-3 values and try to register. It says please enter 10-digit phone number to proceed, because in the next section I'm checking the length of that variable. If it is not equals to 10, I'm saying please enter 10-digit phone number. So I have entered the 10-digit phone number. Now it says please enter email ID to proceed. Next I'm checking the email ID is null or not. So I'll enter some dummy value here and try to register. It says at this point it is still taking this dummy email ID. It says select gender to proceed. Okay, let me select the gender. It asks me to select the country. I have selected India. So, and I have selected skills also, or please select skills. So now I'll select a skill. Then now it says password mismatch because the password what I have given in the password screen and confirm password is not same. That validation I'm doing it here. Check whether password.get. If password.get not equals to confirm password, say password mismatch. So let me give the correct password. Okay. Oh, yes. So now the password is matching. Now it says this is not a valid email address because that I have at the end, that else condition check is at the end of end. So if you see here, I'm checking if email ID is not equals to null. That means if user has given some input for email ID, then I'm calling isValid email. It takes the user input email ID. First it will, I'm just printing it, so I can remove this print also. First it checks whether the input, the email ID is greater than 7. If not, it will display a message box saying it's not a valid email address. This is because a minimum valid email address, to my knowledge, I think it should have minimum of 7 characters. Otherwise, it will not be a valid email ID. So let's see the output here. If I give 7 characters and it says this is not a valid email address, then if input is more than 7 characters, it uses the regular expression to match the email ID. So the regular expression I have used is this one. First, it will caret symbol is to start with. So to start with, I can have underscore and any characters from A to Z or 0 to 9 and a hyphen symbol also. So plus indicates matches one or more characters. So it can be 1 underscore followed by any A to Z or 0 to 9 numbers, or it can only be one character. So plus indicates match one or more characters, followed by I can have dot or underscore or any character or number or even the plus symbol. Here I am saying the indicator as star, that is it can be, this can be optional, it can be 0 or more characters. Star indicates 0 or more characters. Then I need to have a at symbol, followed by at symbol I need to have one or more character or numbers. Then in addition I can have a dot there and any numbers also. It can be 0 or any number of matches since I use star. Then I need to have a dot, then followed by 8 followed by any characters which is of at least, after dot I need to have 4 characters, that is dot, dot com or dot in and all. So this is a regular expression. If my email ID matches this, it will return true, else it will return the message saying this is not a valid email address. Let's see. Here I'll give at and some value here. It says this is not a valid email address. Let me send it off. Again it says not a valid address. Let me pass one character of that. It says not a valid address. Now if I pass in, it says user registered successfully. That is because this is valid email, it returned a true value to the main calling function. That is, it returned true to the variable status. Next, I am checking if status is true. I will display a message user registered successfully. So this is about validate all fields function. Okay. Then next button we have is to clear. It will call the function clear all fields. In the clear all fields function, I am setting all the variables to null value. So here I enters the inputs. Let me click on clear. So it will set all the input fields to null. Okay, I have done that using the .set function. Finally, I have an existing user button which calls the function call new screen. In the call new screen function, I am first destroying the current window and closing the current window. Then I am calling the login screen window. In order to call the login screen window, I have used os.system and I have passed Python and the login screen Python script name. So here, if the files are in the same location, then I need not use this Python keyword. I can just use os.system and the Python file name if the file is in same location. Else I have to use Python space the file name. So let's see. If I click on existing user, it closes the registration screen and opens the login screen. So this is about the registration screen. And now let's see what the login screen does. So this is my code for login screen. Quite simple. It has two input fields, enter full name and password, then three buttons, login, clear and new user. We have already seen the clear button function in the previous registration screen. So let's go to login screen here. So similarly, same like in registration screen, we have imported the packages. Then we have function validate user, validate the username and password, validate all fields, same like in registration screen, clear all fields, and call new screen functions. So first we create an object of tk class. We have given the title for the window, welcome to user login screen, you can see here. And we have a login screen label. So, before that we have given the width and height of the window and set the background color for the window. We have declared two variables, string variables for full name and password. Then we have a label login screen which I have declared here, and label for full name and an entry box for full name. Then label for password and entry box for password. Then three buttons. So let's see what happens when I click on button login. It will go to validate all fields and checks whether user has given input for full name and password. If not, it says please enter full name and password. So let's click login. It says please enter full name to proceed. Enter Sandesh. And now if I click login, it says please enter password to proceed. Let me enter. Then if user has given full name and password, next it goes to else condition where I am calling validate user function. So here validate user function, I am passing the full name and password entered by the user, and in the validate user I check whether username is equals to admin and user password is equals to admin. If so, I will return true, else I will return false. And if the returned value is false, I say, if the return value is true, I say congratulations, login success, else I will display the message saying invalid credentials. So with this values, if I click on login, it says invalid credentials because the validate user, it checks this condition. Since the full name and password is not equals to admin, it returns false to the callback function that is stored in this variable status. Here if status is false, so it goes to else condition and displays the message invalid credentials. Let me try giving admin as full name and password here. click on login. Now it says congratulations, login success. So next we have clear button, which will clear the user input, and new user button, it calls call new screen, which will here I am calling the again registration screen. If he is a new user, so I click on new user button, it closes the login screen window and comes back to the registration screen. So this is how you can design the registration screen and login screen in Python using Tkinter. So in this video, we covered a sample program for creating user registration and login screen. We used different widgets. We validated the phone number, email ID, and all the input fields. For phone number validation, we used a callback function where we created the function, registered the function using the register function method, and we called that callback function on press of keyboard keys. We saw how to switch between the screen, switch between registration to login screen and login screen to registration screen. We also saw how to validate the credentials of user to say he is a valid user or an invalid user, and showed appropriate message box to the user. Hope this video was useful for you guys. Have a good day. Thank you.